how many people we have, what their age ranges are, things that are really important to us in planning for our future and the future of the community. So Becky's here to address a little bit about the census in general and why our support with things like this is important.
Well, thank you for this opportunity to talk about some of the exciting news that's going on with the census and, the support that we've already had and continue to look forward to from Bucksport. As of 3 o'clock this afternoon, which is when they update daily the response rate map, Bucksport's self-response rate is at 50.5%. Of households have already responded. And I have to say that's gone up quite a bit in just the last couple weeks. And 21% of households in the Bucksport area responded using the online methodology, which is new this year. And I'm excited that it's over 50% now. However, when you look at the fact that in 2010, 64.1% of households self-responded to the census, and then the rest we counted by census workers knocking on the doors. That really means that we have a long way to go in a short amount of time to get as many people self-responded as possible. And we do know that self-response is the most accurate response methodology that we have. So, and we also know that this year, not a lot of people are wanting somebody coming knocking on their door because of the COVID-19. And so we really want to respond very quickly. Especially since Maine was just selected as one of only 6 places across the nation where they're going to be starting the door knocking early. So that will start on July 16th, which I can't believe this, but that's already next week. So, and as Sue said, the census is so important, not just for being able to really understand the demographics of your own area, but it's really all about power and money. Because the census does determine how many seats a state has in the U.S. Congress, but it also determines how we redistrict within the state of Maine. And so that's very important to all of us who live here. And it's also really important when it comes to the distribution of over $675 billion of federal resources that go back into states and communities for things that make our communities what we want to live with, communities with good schools, good roads, healthcare access, economic development, public safety, all those things that we think of with a community. A lot of that money that comes from the federal government is determined by the census count. So that's why we want to make certain that everybody in Bucksport gets counted. Maybe I'm a little biased because I live here in Maine, but I want to make sure you get your full share. So tonight, I really applaud you all for having this resolution. And it is very easy for people to respond this year, more so than ever, because people have a choice of 4 ways they can respond. They can respond online, which is very, very quick, even for somebody like me. You can also call 1-844-330-2020 and give your responses by phone. You can do the traditional mail-in, the paper copy that you hopefully received in the mail, or maybe had it left on your doorknob. And then, of course, there is the 4th way with the door knocking. And it's also very, very safe. And I always like to share with this with town council members because you're folks that people in your community really trust. So when you tell them that it's safe to fill out the census, they're going to listen to you. I mean, they don't care what I say, but you guys, they know they can trust. We cannot share any personal information that we gather for the census with anyone. We don't share it with other federal agencies. We can't share it with law enforcement. We don't share it with the state. We don't share it with anyone outside of the Census Bureau. And, so if you list 12 people live in your household and your landlord only knows about 2, that landlord's not going to find out from us. Are any of you landlords? If so, I'm sorry about that, but that's just the way the law is. And in fact, any census employee such as myself, if we ever share anyone's personal information, we go to prison for 5 years and pay a $250,000 fine. That's how seriously we take people's privacy. And so that's a message that we hope that you'll share when you're encouraging your neighbors to fill out the 2020 census. Now, we've been involved with Bucksport for quite some time. The town has been very, very supportive. Thank you, Sue. And we're also working with several other groups, such as the Regional Health Center there. We're working with the Senior Resource Committee, and we were working with the Chamber, but we continue to work with several groups in the community. So I just, I'm very excited about your resolution to support participation in the 2020 census, and, encourage you to pass it. And I'm also very happy at this point to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions from the council?
Great.
Sue, I'll check real quick. Any questions from the public that have come in this short amount of time?
I have no phone messages, and I know that that's working tonight so people can call in. And as far as email goes, I have 0.
Great. Thank you. How would the council like to proceed?
Thank you very much. And
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. How would the council like to proceed?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Jacob?
Mark Eastman,
Approve.
Jim Morrison,
You're muted, Jim.
There it goes.
Paul Bissonnette,
Approve.
Peter Stewart. I'm sorry, Dan Ormsby. I'm out of my rhythm here. Thank you, Dan. Kathy Downs.
Kathy Downs, approve.
Okay, Ed Rankin.
Approve.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Becky. Appreciate your input and the information. Next item on the agenda is to consider minutes of previous meetings. We have the town council minutes from June the 25th.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Jacob?
Mark Eastman,
Approve.
Jim Morrison,
Approve.
Paul Bissonnette,
Approve.
Dan Ormsby,
Approve.
Kathy Downs,
Approve.
Ed Rankin.
Approve.
Thank you, everyone. Next item is to receive and review correspondence. We have one item regarding a police call on Verona Island on June the 30th. Any questions or anyone have anything to add for that? Hearing none. Next item on the agenda is ordinances to consider and introduce. We don't have any this evening that I am aware of. So we'll move on to discussion items under agenda item 7. The first discussion item is an update on the pool.
And if you haven't been up by the pool lately, you should take a ride. It is the structural components of the pool repair have been completed by Wardwell, including a repaving of the floor of the pool, which was necessitated by the extensive cracking that had occurred and wouldn't have been sufficient to just patch due to the amount, but because the original thing we thought was wrong with the pool wasn't, that's not an additional cost to the town under that contract. And also, Mike's Pool Service has started with the sandblasting of the end wall and the repairs to that. We had hoped for an opening date of July 20th. There's a 14-day cure period for the asphalt before it can be painted, so it may move that to July 27th. But the Y is ready to staff it as soon as it's opened. We've been in touch with them, and I'm feeling really positive about the work that's been done there and will be completed in order for this pool to be open in this season at a cost far less than what we had thought it might be.
Great. Any questions or comments from the council? I'll assume, Sue, that we don't have any from the public.
Nobody's called, and nobody's emailed.
Great. Thank you very much. Next item under discussion items is property tax abatement for Maine Maritime Academy on the 2019-2020 taxes. I know Richard Rosen from Maine Maritime Academy has joined us, but I'll turn it over to the town manager.
I had provided you with a memo prior to MMA submitting their information from AIM and their request. As I cited in the memo, there were some issues with the taxing of this parcel last year in that although the parcel had been subdivided prior to April 1st, it wasn't taxed as a subdivision. The individual lots were not taxed. And one bill went out in the name of AIM for the entire parcel, which was sold prior to July 1, all but one lot, to Whole Oceans and Maine Maritime. And at the time that bill went out, AIM distributed to Maine Maritime and Whole Oceans their share of what that would be. There were some other difficulties with the assessment in that it had a basis on sales that were well after the assessment date of April 1st. All that aside, at the time this was occurring, since Maine Maritime would be in possession of it from July 1 to June 30th, and AIM would have no ownership at that time, the assumption was that an abatement would be granted because they're a tax-exempt entity. That did not occur in the 175 days that is the assessor's purview for consideration of abatements, which leaves them with the recourse to counsel for the abatement of those taxes. The difficulty, if it's not abated, is that due to the way it was assessed as on one parcel, it would lien the entire thing, meaning the pieces owned by Whole Ocean, the piece owned by Maine Maritime, and the last lot left with AIM in the name of AIM, but the property is what gets the lien, not the person. It's the property that stays with. So it creates a bigger dilemma due to the way it was originally assessed. And so that's my memo to you and an explanation of what has occurred here. And Mr. Rosen is on the line to address Maine Maritime's request and answer any questions that you folks have in regard to them.
Great. Mr. Rosen. I don't think you're muted, Richard.
No, he's not muted, but it's not moving either.
Yeah. Yep. Richard, I don't know if you can hear us, but there's an issue with your microphone.
How's
Well,
it?
we can-
How's it?
There you go. There you are.
All right. Very good. Thank you. I'm sorry about that.
That's right.
So first of all, I want to thank the members of the council for placing this item on the agenda and for your consideration of it. Sue, I thought did a very clear job of walking through the set of circumstances that we find ourselves in. What I have submitted to you is, first of all, a letter that is requesting an abatement on the 2019-2020 property tax liability. As you know, for the current 2020-2021 year, the educational property tax exemption is in place. But because of the set of circumstances that Sue described, that did not occur for the 2019-2020 year. Attached to the letter requesting the abatement, you will also see a document from AIM, and this is from AIM, the Maine Maritime Academy, granting the Academy permission to come before you and seek this abatement, and also makes it very clear that the intent here is to not end up in a circumstance where any liability would fall back onto AIM development. So that's pretty much the situation, and happy to answer any further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Rosen. Any questions from the council?
I have a question. What is the exact amount, the abatement we're looking at?
$30,069 and change.
Okay.
It's a little less than $31,000.
Okay. I had saw 30 and I wasn't sure. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions from the council? I'll ask again. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry, Paul. Quick question to Sue. Are there any immediate effects of giving this abatement as far as the taxpayers are concerned?
No. This would be a write-off against last year's overlay. This would not impact this year.
So we wouldn't be pulling from any reserve or anything like that? Okay.
No, there was an overlay last year, some of which was used in an abatement for Whole Oceans, which I discussed in that.
Yep.
But the remainder would be used for this abatement.
Okay.
Did we anticipate this?
We anticipated that they would ask for an abatement based on the fact that the property sale happened between the assessment date and the time of commitment. But the way it was assessed wasn't because the lots weren't separated and taxed individually, made this a more complicated transaction than it would have been otherwise. But it wouldn't have changed the value, except that it's likely that the value would have been lower because the values on that lot were based on sales that were that occurred after April 1st. We did anticipate that there would be a request for abatement of this tax because of their educational status.
Okay, thank you.
Anything additional from the council? I'll ask again.
This would require, this is the discussion, but this would, if you wish to move it forward, would have a resolve on the next council meeting for a vote. I didn't pre-decide this for you. I gave you my opinion, but if we're going to move this forward, it would be a resolve on the next council agenda, not a vote tonight. Is that satisfactory with everyone, or?
Oh, yes. Yep.
Yeah, yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
I've made a note so I don't forget to, anything from the public?
Nobody has called, and nobody has emailed.
Great. Thank you very much.
Could I ask one more thing? Who ends up not having to pay this money? Is it AIM that this was assessed to, or just so I'm clear on that?
The bill was assessed to AIM as record owner as of April 1st. They had no possession of this lot or property from July 1 of this year through June 30th, of last year through June 30th of this year, which is where if we say, okay, it's AIM's because they were assessed on that date, the impact isn't to AIM. The impact is to Maine Maritime and Whole Oceans because it was taxed as all one big lot.
So in other words,
that's what makes it a more complicated situation.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a can of worms I really don't want to open up.
Right.
In that respect, because the methodology overall could call more into question than this abatement.
Sure. And so, and a simplified explanation would be that certainly this happens regularly, where a tax bill, April 1st comes and goes, and then between April 1st and July 1st, properties are sold, and so the responsibility passes to the new owner of the property.
If the new owner of the property doesn't want to lien on their property,
right,
they pay the tax. But
exactly.
But
where
the
MMA,
the record owner, but they don't own the property anymore. So
exactly,
the property's liened in the name of somebody who no longer owns it, but it's still the current property owner's issue if it's not paid.
And MMA's tax exempt status is another probably worm in the can, so to speak, or yeah.
The bigger piece is, and I've talked to Caitlin about this, is the assessment of this parcel as one great big lump instead of the multiple lots that were subdivided prior to April 1st, which would have made this a cleaner discussion. Would you agree with that, Caitlin? That if it had been not all it had been carved up, this would be a simpler discussion. She's muted, and
I think she's frozen. Yeah.
She's frozen.
Yep.
You're frozen, Caitlin. But no, and our former assessor and I had discussions about this prior to last year, but town managers have no input in the assessing.
Yep.
I'm the tax collector. I can have nothing to do with how things are assessed or what they're assessed for or any of that. I can certainly say, I really think we should carve this up, but I can't force that issue.
Sure.
So.
All right, I made it back if anybody wants my opinion still.
But
it would have been split, sorry.
No, I was saying that it would have been cleaner if it was carved up before the taxes went out. So these individual lots all had their own identity, and we weren't putting anybody else in peril with a lien.
Right, because it was subdivided prior to April 1st, they should have been assessed, even though the sale hadn't happened for all those lots. They all should have been assessed separately to AIM, and because they weren't, it opened up a whole can of worms with Whole Oceans and what they thought they should have paid, and then now the MMA property. So unfortunately, it's kind of like a hands tied situation where things just weren't done the way they should have been. So we'll do better going forward, but we have to kind of deal with consequences now.
So how are we going forward, as you said, how do we fix this? So should it not be an issue now that they have the property and the tax exempt, so we're good that way?
Yeah, so every parcel on that part of that subdivision has already been split out, and now they're all with their rightful owners. So they're all assessed separately now for this coming year.
Anything else? All right, we'll take that up at our next meeting. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rosen.
Thank you very much.
Next item will our agenda items. The first item is to approve Resolve 2021-01 to set the mill rate for 2020-2021 property taxes.
You have a resolve in your packet, and then you have a second resolve that I forwarded you today that changes the proposed mill rate from $16.30 per thousand to $16.25 per thousand. And the basis for that is that our valuations and Betty and all the impact of that, in combination with the fact that our to be raised from taxation is lower than last year, results in the fact that the highest mill rate that we could have would be $16.27. We've selected $16.25 because that's a more even number for in terms of bills and rounding. But this mill rate, it provides a healthy overlay of $350,000, and while that sounds high, what that does is provide a cushion that would allow us to know now that barring someone outside of our control doing something crazy to a budget, that we could absorb debt service on the road work that's going to be done, as well as increases to the budget without changing that. And the goal has always been to not have a brainwave, and this 5-cent reduction, as I said earlier, in combination with the additional $5,000 exemption, provides people with a property of 100,000 or less a 6.1% property reduction, and people of 200,000 between 100 and 200,000 a 3.1, and even $300,000 valued properties would see 2.1 reduction if they had a homestead. Caitlin's here to answer any questions about the valuations that you have, and we've been gone around and around, and I was concerned that if we had to drop the mill rate too much, that we might then have a bounce next year, and I don't think any of us wants that. But if we can do a small reduction in the mill rate that's sustainable moving forward, this now would make a total reduction in the mill rate since 2015 of 85 cents a thousand, which is not bad, all things considered. And where it gets us at 16.25 is practically unheard of from communities with services. So happy to answer any questions. As I said, Caitlin's the valuation guru, and she's here with, and happy to answer anything about that as well.
Questions from the council? Great. Anything from the public, Sue?
I am seeing nothing and hearing less.
Okay. How would the council like to proceed?
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion from Jim, second from Kathy. Any questions before we? Oh, Jacob.
Mark Eastman,
Approve.
Jim Morrison,
Approve.
Paul Bissonnette,
Approve.
Dan Ormsby,
Approve.
Kathy Downs,
Approve.
Ed Rankin.
Approve.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Excuse me, Paul, just 1 second. I just wanted to take a minute to thank Caitlin. This is her first commitment with us. She's been with us since last September, has had certainly a hill to climb and getting through all of this stuff, especially with this mill property sales and getting all that done, and she's done a great job. I just want to recognize that.
Great. I think
Thank you,
Kim was
Caitlin.
frozen again. Yes, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great job.
Next item is to approve Resolve 2020-02 to accept the stormwater drainage easement parcel associated with Royal Ridge Drive.
For those who were on the council back in 2017, the council accepted Royal Ridge Lane or Drive as a town way and took over plowing. And part of the acceptance, including the stormwater, etc., but the stormwater, the portion of the property with the stormwater easement on it wasn't conveyed, and the owners of that subdivision have been in contact to say that they will convey that at no cost now, and they'll do the deed preparation, but it probably should have occurred when we first got that. We took that over because it is a stormwater thing, and we would need access to maintain it anyway. So that's the purpose of this resolve.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We do have a motion and a second. Any questions from the council? Seeing anything from the public, Sue?
No.
Okay. Jacob?
Mark Eastman.
Approve?
Jim Morrison.
Approve.
Paul Bissonnette.
Approve.
Dan Ormsby.
Approve.
Kathy Downs.
Approve.
And Ed Rankin.
Approve.
Thank you, everyone. Next item under agenda items is to approve Resolve 2021-03 to approve the salt contract for 2021 through the state DOT contract with New England Salt for $46.10 per ton.
This is $1.15 lower per ton than our 2019-20 price. We did participate in the MDOT bidding. So this, at the current tonnage, saves us close to $3,000 if we use the maximum amount of tonnage by that $1.15 reduction.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions from the council or the public? Hearing none. Jacob?
Mark Eastman.
Approve?
Jim Morrison.
Approve.
Paul Bissonnette.
Approve.
Dan Ormsby.
Approve.
Kathy Downs.
Approve.
Ed Rankin.
Approve.
Thank you, everyone. Next item is resignations, appointments, assignments, and elections, and it does not appear we have any of those. Next item would be approval of quit claims, discharges, and deeds. We have none of those either. And next item, I assume she's returning, is the town manager report.
Sorry about that.
That is all right. We're up to you, Sue, the town manager report.
Yes, and that's what I'm looking for right now because I just ran in the other room to get it, but I didn't find it. When I moved, I lost my place.
Oh, no.
And, here I am. Found my place. So I'm pleased to note that Rich Rotella has been working with Design Lab on the marketing plan that was approved a number of months ago. They have been in Bucksport for the past 2 days getting tours and interviewing people. And I want to thank Rich for the amazing organization that he's done of this. I spoke with them as they were leaving tonight, and in the past 2 days they've interviewed more than 20 individuals in Bucksport and for this program. We had our second virtual meeting of the Bucksport Area Service Network today. It was productive and resulted in connections for the possibility of telehealth specialist appointments through the health center, updates on the senior center reopening and the meal delivery program, information from public health nursing, updates on local COVID testing ability at the health center, and lots more. The point of the group is to keep the lines of communication open and operational between a diverse group of entities, and after 2 meetings, I think it is working. The senior center is working through a gradual reopening for activities that can be done and still incorporate social distancing, face coverings, etc. The meal delivery at no cost program will continue through the end of July. They had their highest day yesterday with 151 meals, after which time the program will still continue, but the $6 fee will be charged. But people should be aware that there are vouchers for meals for those who are unable to pay even after the free meals program ends. So there is that possibility. I sent out letters to 14 property owners a week ago in regard to the foreclosed status of their properties. One person has already come in and cleared up all their taxes on 3 separate properties that they owned. And of the remaining 13, 4 of these properties are non-owner occupied dwellings, and 3 of them are land only. I am in hopes to get all the owner-occupied ones into a repayment status, but if I'm unsuccessful in getting a response from those that are non-owner occupied or land only within a reasonable time frame, I will be bringing those to you for sale consideration, because those are not primary residence of people. They're land only, or they're a rental property that someone else owns. And while retaining and helping people retain their primary residence, providing the opportunity for people to own multiple parcels and not pay taxes on them is really a burden on the remaining taxpayers. I would like to thank Rich Rotella and Mike Ormsby and Bill Gray for helping a fawn get back to land after being chased into the river today by a fox. We truly have a crew that goes above and beyond. I also want to recognize the efforts of our taxpayers who had a lien placed on property for unpaid 2020 property taxes. As of July 9th, 9 days after those liens were placed, 33% of the total to be collected has been paid. It includes 28% of the properties liened. We've collected $73,157 in the last 9 days on those lien properties of the $223,000 that was outstanding at the time, which is, compared to last year, the first 9 days of July, there was $24,000 paid. So this is a substantially higher effort than last year, and people here are to be commended for coming in and taking care of this in what I'm sure is a difficult time. And we already talked about the census, so I won't talk about that again. Since you've adopted a mill rate, Caitlin will be committing taxes tomorrow and sending off the files, and bills should be going out sometime next week. The first half is due by August 31st to avoid interest, and the second half is due by March 31st. Another item is that sewer bills also go out next week for this past quarter, and this past quarter's sewer billing is $34,000 higher than it was a year ago, thanks to the new users we have on the system since that time. So that is substantial, and as we look at this moving forward, that offers some real opportunities to maintain or perhaps lower our rates a bit. So I'm excited about our sewer billing, but it's because we have new users, and that we've known right along that the only thing that could bring down rates apart from our solar to help on that would be more users on our system, and we're getting them. So that's my report.
Thank you, Sue. Any questions for Sue before we move on?
Can I have one more, and I was starting to tell you this before, but in terms of where our mill rate is and what this means for people with homestead exemptions, in that about 40% of our property taxpayers have tax bills on properties that are valued at $100,000 or less. And if they have homestead exemption, they'll see a decrease in their property taxes equivalent to 6%, and that's 6.5% actually. And between 100 and 200,000, they'll see a 3.1% reduction. And I think that given the environment that we're in and all that's going on, I want to thank all of you for your budget work and all of the department heads who worked really hard this year to put forward a budget that would allow this to happen. So just a little more information. Everyone should be, if they get a bill that's lower than last year, that's a good thing, right?
Agreed. Thank you. Let's see. Next item on the agenda is to set public hearings and or hold public hearings and the approval of any licenses or permits. And we do have a license this evening, Carrier's Mainly Lobster liquor license.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions from the council? I'll assume there are no questions from the public, Sue, on that.
None.
Great. Jacob.
Mark Eastman,
Approve?
Jim Morrison,
Approve.
Paul Bissonnette,
Approve.
Dan Ormsby,
Approve.
Kathy Downs,
Approve.
Ed Rankin.
Approve.
Thank you, Jacob. Next item is discussion of items not on the agenda for the council and the public. Start with the council. Council have anything to discuss?
Just a minor one that my youngest 11-year-old daughter pointed out to me, that the Ian's Playground, don't know if it's been corrected, but has a sign on the parking lot side, but not on the superintendent's side entrance. Her input says there should be a sign on both sides of the playground.
It's an excellent observation. We'll take care of it.
She might be the third generation of Rankins to make an appearance on our council someday. I just had a question, Sue. I notice, being in the neighborhood, I noticed the signs, and they're blocked, but the signs going up from the DOT that I assume are for the project over on Central Street. Do we have a date for when that's supposed to begin?
I don't. I will get it and put it out, and I'll also post on Facebook when I know that date. I
Okay.
don't.
Yeah, I thought I'd ask because the signs they're up, but they're covered. So, yep. Anything else from the council? Anything from the public, Sue?
Hi, this is Rich. Can you guys hear me?
Oh, there's Rich. Hi, Rich.
Hey there. Got two things. Just to answer Councilor Rankin's question with a question, is he referring to the sign that identifies Ian Playground or one of the COVID signs?
COVID signs, Rich.
Yeah, and I picked that up this week and I installed it, I believe, on Monday. So all three sides now have a COVID sign.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. I do have something else, though, as well that I want to bring to your attention. American Cruise Line reached out to the town. Today, I got the email a little late this afternoon, and they would like to set up a meeting because they are working with the state. They're working with Janet Mills and Dr. Shaw, and there's another doctor as well, to set arrangements for cruise ships to sail again. They would like to, they've created a 26-page response plan in regards to COVID, and they would like to have a meeting with the chief, myself, the harbor master, and Sue, and we have that tentatively scheduled for Monday. Their cruises will carry roughly 50 to 60 United States citizens, and they have outlined a plan for 11 visits to Bucksport beginning July 23rd and ending the week of September 28th.
That would require council approval. So following this meeting that we were going to have, this would be agended for your July 23rd meeting in order to decide if that was something that you were comfortable with or not.
When do they want to start bringing ships in?
July 23rd. So I'm wondering if we might be able to have either a special meeting. The state still hasn't approved this yet. It's looking positive, but it hasn't been finalized yet. So obviously, we couldn't approve anything that the state hasn't already approved. I guess we could make it contingent upon state approval. But we'd want to have that meeting with American Cruise Lines to understand their intentions.
So, Rich, you said there are 11. They want to bring in 11 boats.
Yeah, so they have two different ships, the Constitution and the Independence. I believe one of the ships is 215 feet and the other is 185, if I'm not mistaken. They would be spending 2 evenings. I believe we charge $2 a foot, so looking at it from a pure income perspective, you're looking at roughly $10,000 in revenue, and that does not include any trash pickup, and Bucksport is one of only 2 sites where they are able to leave trash as well, and we do collect the fee for that as well.
Awesome.
So yeah, it sounds like if after your meeting on Monday, I guess probably the best course of action, unless the council has any objection, Sue, would be to probably set up another meeting. Do we have any idea when the state's going to weigh in on this?
I believe that at least they presented to Bar Harbor this Monday and were turned down. Bar Harbor said that they would not, and they, in reading the article that described it, they were looking for that approval in order to help with their state, that this plan had been, and well, Bar Harbor was very complimentary of this plan that they outlined. Bar Harbor's had a significant amount of pushback for any cruise ships to be there at all. So I'm not sure which is going to come first, the chicken or the egg, in terms of them being able to line up communities that would approve their coming here based on the plan, or the state approving it, then saying, then seeking community approval, if that makes any sense. They're looking for some support to bolster their support from the state. I think, Rich, would you say that's somewhat?
Yes, and I will send this 26-page document out to the counselors as well tomorrow. I do know one of the requirements is that they test negative for COVID before they can get on the ship as well. So I know they've been working with the state for a very, very long time, because initially this wasn't supposed to take place until mid to late August, and their busiest season is August. August is their busiest.
How many cruise ships did we have in over the last 2 years? It's only been a couple, right?
Well, no. So 2 years ago, Bar Harbor did not want cruise ships. So they didn't want the American Cruise Line cruise ships. So we gladly took them on, and we had either 10 or 11 that year. Last year, Bar Harbor had a change of mind because we made out well and they lost money. So they took the cruise ships back, and we only received 2 or 3, and that was only because of inclement weather. We were not a permanent stop. But again, Bar Harbor, this is the second time that they're not wanting the cruise ships. The first time the citizens didn't want them. No COVID at that time either. So this would be an increase over last year for the town. And they are under new management as well right now. So we're hoping this leads to a longer lasting relationship where we are a destination. We do have the fort and the observatory, so we are deserving of being a destination.
Does the information that you're going to give us, does it say whether or not they're going to be holding their shore leaves here in Bucksport, or are they going to be bused somewhere else, or is it going to be possible to bus them if Bar Harbor doesn't want them dropping their ship in there? Maybe they don't want them coming down in buses either,
That's the information that we have to find out, Jim, as to what are their intentions. If you've seen the report in Eastport, there is a cruise ship that's tied up there, and no one's coming off the cruise ship. It's just docking there, and they are being paid daily for that cruise ship just to be there and the crew to stay on that cruise ship. So, we don't know the intentions, and that's why I would recommend not taking any action, obviously, until we have this conversation with them. I will tell you the 26th paper bill is extremely thorough. They did a great job.
How long before the state's going to have their information in front of us?
That's a good question, Jim. I know this has been bumped up and moved up as a priority. What is very helpful for the cruise line is the fact that it's coming from states that the governor has opened up to travel without having to quarantine. They're based out of Connecticut, and they come up to New York, and they come up to the Portland area, and then up in Rockland, Booth Bay, and typically Bar Harbor. But again, Bar Harbor has excluded them.
Yeah, I would think the sooner we could have that in front of us, the better our informed decision would be.
Yes, absolutely, I agree.
Thank you.
Unless there's...
We did have a message from Public Safety Director Gagan that he spoke to DOT about when the construction project was going to start, and they said within a month, up to a month before they start construction.
I wonder
that's
if they...
not a definitive date, but that's the information that he had when he spoke with them. We can follow up and see if they've ironed it out anymore. But
that'd be good. Thank you. So I guess unless the council has anything additional,
so
we can. Oh, go ahead, Dan.
Sorry. So if the first cruise ship was supposed to come up on the 23rd, right? Do we want to look at? Obviously, we want the information first and look at all that stuff. But can we do a meeting before that time so that we can either approve or disapprove?
7 days from today is the 16th.
Yep.
And if the meeting on Monday is, that's still sufficient time to post a meeting, which we would have to conduct this in this fashion, but also allow public input into what they think of this idea. So there would be, if we know by Monday, there would be time to post a meeting for Thursday. We could, for example, have a meeting Thursday at 6 o'clock rather than waiting until 7, and you could have this be a special meeting for the purpose of this one discussion item.
Thanks.
Anyone on the council?
Like Tuesday. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I was just making sure that that's okay. Everybody that's here this evening could make hypothetically a meeting next Thursday at 6.
Yes, I can.
Perfect. Then, yep. If Sue if you can just keep us informed on that, and then if we need to meet, we'll do so.
Okay.
Anything else for items not on the agenda? Hearing none. Upcoming public hearings, designation of topics for committee assignment, and scheduling of committee meetings. Other than the meeting we just discussed that could potentially happen next week, do we have anything for additional we need to do for the 23rd? I know we do have that meeting at 6 o'clock prior to the regular meeting, but anything else that we need?
I'm still working on the details of being able to hold it at the Performing Arts Center.
Okay.
Our IT director is working from home, but not supposed to be mobile and et cetera yet. That's next week. So depending on how quickly the logistics related to making that a live video site, I'll keep you posted on that.
Okay. Great. Any other questions from the council?
Is the school budget going to be on the ballot?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Next item is adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second. Jacob. Oh, you're muted, Jacob. Oh, there he is. Maybe. Maybe I can save us all a little time. Any objections to adjournment?
No.
No.
Very good.
Eh,
Hearing none. Thank you
Thank
all.
you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Night all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Right.